Hello, and welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for following me as I explore the wide world of pens. And you see two in front of you. One I bought a while ago because I love the pattern, and it's a great writing pen. And the brown one was a gift from one of my YouTube viewers, which I sincerely appreciate. This is like a check resin, a stacked resin. There's a number of different descriptions you can have for it, but you can say it looks great. We're going to zoom in a little bit just so we can appreciate this resin a little bit more closely. It just has a lot of pearlescence to it, a lot of variations to it, and the colors are nice. So we're going to look at other pens, Pen BBS and Kaigelu, that have a similar type of resin in them. And then we're going to ink up the brown one and write with it and see if it writes as good as the blue one, which I've written with for many times and many fills and have enjoyed it all the time. You might ask, what other pens do we have in this brown check resin besides the Jinhao 100? But we also see next to it a green check Moonman M600, and upcoming are some of the Pen BBS models I've been able to acquire, a 456 and a 480. They're very similar check design. The Jinhao is in the brown family, but slightly different. Could just be the difference in batch to batch. Probably the same manufacturer poured the resins and prepared them for machining by Pen BBS or Jinhao. Interesting. Well, for those of you that like the how does it write part the most, let's include some examples of writing with these two pens early in the video. Not going to be live, but I think this is very illustrated of how these pens write. So I have the brown check and the blue check, fine nib, medium nib, both Birmingham inks, which I've learned to enjoy more and more, and thankfully I do have a number of them that I just enjoy more and more every day. Fox Squirrel is a crisp ink. It looks like it's on the light side, but these nibs are very generous, put down a nice amount of ink. This is on Tomoe River paper, so that ink's going to really show off shading, and this one has the sheen. And again, this is the rich ink. You can see how much saturation it has versus the crisp ink. But then you can see here how the crisp ink, you can still see that check pattern that I laid down before I did the smear. And these pens on the downstroke put out a little bit more ink, open up a little bit. So the nibs feel very, very great on the paper. On this Tomoe River, they're extremely smooth. I haven't had one of these number 6 nibs that I've had any issues with, have to do any tuning. I just flush them out, ink them up, and write with them, and they write well. Let's see if we can get some of that sheen from the Tesla coil, which to me sheens about as much as any ink that I have, and I like what it does to the color. And Tomoe River paper certainly brings out sheen and brings out the shading in the Fox Squirrel. Well, here we have my fountain pens that have a check resin. The two Pen BBS models here, 480 and 456. Here's the new Jinhao 100 and a brown family of check. A Jinhao 100 in the blue family of check. A Moonman M600S in the green check. And here's a Kaigelu, which they only use this check resin in this pen, which certainly doesn't fit into these dual fold designs here. And they do have the 316, and I think this resin would look beautiful in the 316 because this has blues, browns, and blacks. It's an interesting combination, slightly different than these other check resins. Let's take a look at the section and nib. So here are the business end of these wonderful check pens. Pen BBS certainly looks impressive with the section made out of the same material as the pen. which I like. Here's your standard. Oh, no, it's not your standard nib. I think I replaced that nib. It's a Jinhao nib, probably ground to, it looks like a cursive italic. Here's that nice two-tone nib, which is on a lot of 4, 5, 6s that are in the higher end. Here's the two Jinhaos that have a really nice medium nib on them. Here's the Moonman M600 with also a replacement nib, and this is like an architect grind. Yes, I got into a lot of nib grinds. And on the Kaigaloo is a smaller nib, certainly not as impressive. Small section, a pen that I got basically as a curiosity, but it didn't get written with much after the video and then got stored in the drawer, but comes out for videos like this. So hopefully you've enjoyed this look, and you could imagine what it's like to hold one of these pens in your hand. So one may ask, can you Frankenize these Jinhao 100s? And my guess is absolutely. These caps are interchangeable. They screw right on, which to me could be a testament of the quality control and the dimensional stability of these pens. Not exactly a look that I would say is attractive, but who knows? So you know I couldn't get away with this review without showing the two pens on a turntable held up by crabs. And the crabs needed a good workout, so they're getting one. These pens are still available, at least on eBay. Here's some of the auctions that I found. And also, Jinhao, with this Centennial 100 model, has added a lot of variations to it. They have white finials. They have finials the same color as the rest of the body of the pen, and I've gotten a few of those. I just find they're a great pen, extremely well engineered, manufactured, put together, a wonderful writing number 6 nib. Say no more. You may ask, what other Jinhao 100 Centennial pens do you have? And I think this is all of them. I searched the drawer that I keep them in. The two check ones, which are the focus of this review. Here's a nice, beautiful one in a nice coral red color, and it has an arrow clip. What a surprise. An orange one. Here's the original one, which was kind of like an orange version of the Big Red by Parker. And here's one in a beautiful dark green, very classy looking executive style pen. Here's some examples of what's available on eBay. It's a wide range, and like Kaigaloo, they're certainly expanding the range in the colors of resin, the qualities of resin, different trims. A lot of these come in both gold and silver trims, and you can check to see if they have an arrow clip or not. So it gives you a lot of variety. I can't imagine there isn't a Jinhao 100 that would appeal to you. And they all write very well from my experience. I didn't know what ink was in the pen. It was given to me with some ink in it, so I flushed it all out. And I pulled the nib and feed out of the nib collar. To me, a thorough cleaning is always good when you're changing inks. And this converter is built a little bit better than the one in my blue check because it has this nice little metal ring at the bottom, which I really like. You know, it looks like it's substantial, a lot of longevity to it. It moves very well, and it's branded. You know, this section works very, very well. I love that little O-ring there at the bottom, so when you put the barrel on, that last little turn there, it seats very nicely and feels very secure. And this resin certainly pops. I got a little bit of sunlight coming in. You know, this is your standard Jinhao number 6 nib that they've been using for a while. You know, maybe this is the upscale one with a nice little two-tone, that silver band there with a little scroll work in it. You can see how it's just a masking, and it's probably the last plate that they do. Standard plastic feed. It's been working fairly well, and as we see this right with the blue one, we'll get a chance to see how well that feed works in this fine nib. Let's bring in the LED and see how that might change the look. Reduce the light as much as I can. It is daytime outside, so it's not going to get as dark as I can get it usually. But the LED light will do a little bit of accents to this, I think, amazing resin. And if we go inside, we'll see there's some of those little checkerboard patterns are more transparent than others. Some are fairly opaque. I just love it, and I'm impressed with the design. You know, considering this pen is $40, which is almost triple what the lowest cost Jinhao 100 costs. Here's some examples. And they all have the same great design characteristics. Very well made, very well machined. It may be the buy, but then the 316s run in a close second. You can decide which one you like the best. Before I reassemble, I just want to show you a nice little design detail that they put into this nib collar. It's shaped for the nib to be here at the top, and then the flat spot on the feed, so it only fits in one way, and I think that's very, very good. So when you assemble it, you know everything is in the right spot. Very good engineering and execution. Well, you all know I'm adventurous when it comes to inks. I really haven't found a pen appropriate for this ink. It's similar to the sarsaparilla one I have, and I recently put that in a nice wet writer, and I'm very, very happy with the way it looks. This is in the brown family, so it's going to be, you know, compatible with the basic colors of the pen. And the chromatography is quite interesting. You got a line here that looks a little bit of water resistance to it, pushes up kind of a purplish color, and then it gets very, very pale, and then at the very top is this incredible intense yellow. Makes a brown. Let's see how it looks when the nib puts it on paper. Now we're ready for the editorial comments, some technical information, and writing. So let me just say right off, I put the quality of this pen, both from a functional level and an aesthetic level, as good as any pen around. There's no real flaws to it that I can see, and it certainly has a lot of really positive traits. I looked at the original review I did of the blue check, so we're going to show the dimensions of the pen. One of the things that's obvious from the dimensions, and the cap unscrews with a lot of turns, almost 3. It's more than it should. And yes, technically you can post the pen, and it's certainly not something that I would do. It doesn't change the balance as much as you would think. We'll give you the breakdown of the weights, which we put into the dimensions screen. And the cap is relatively stable, but still will come off if you knock it around. But then, so will a lot of other pens. It's very, very comfortable in the hand unposted. That section is a great size. A two-tone nib, and this one's a fine. Just aesthetically looks good and writes well, as we shall see. Yeah, it ink dries faster than I expected on this Fabriano paper. So all of these nibs that I've used on my 100s are extremely smooth. They glide across the paper. They lay down a nice consistent line. You know, this is definitely a fine nib, definitely fine, but you can put a little bit of pressure on it and the ink flow opens up and it puts down more ink, and you can see it, enough ink to actually get some feathering involved. So I'm looking at the blue check. I didn't rate the pen. So let's rate both this and the blue check, and I'm going to give them a 9.8. Great nibs, great execution, and they look fabulous. So you've reached the end of this video. Hopefully you found it useful, enjoyable, entertaining, both visually and intellectually. I want to thank all of you for watching. I hope you find your pens enjoyable, encouraging you to write, enjoying you to put ink on paper, because that's what it's all about. If we reach the end of this video, I hope it finds you safe, healthy, and happy. And we'll say bye. I'm motivated. There'll be a lot more videos to follow. And I actually have some decent content coming in. Here's a preview.